Gonna share my screen and the show will begin. Okay, I want to welcome you guys to today's show. My name is Dr. Dieter. I'm a board certified physician in internal medicine and pediatrics. And today we're going to examine how the chronic medical conditions that we face today are coming from something we call metabolic dysfunction, which is just simply a fancy medical term to say an energy shortage. And that energy shortage is being driven by two things, one of which is insulin resistance and another of which is what we call microbiome dysfunction. We're going to examine how these two entities feed into the energy shortage that then result in the chronic diseases of modern day. Let's start with insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? It's just simply a fancy medical term to say that your insulin is not working well. Now, insulin is a very critical hormone in the body. You consider insulin to be hormone numero uno in terms of importante. Is the most critical hormone in the body. When insulin is working well, I call it the CEO of the body. When insulin is working well, it dictates the smooth structure and functioning of the body. When insulin is not working well, we have a problem. And insulin has a very critical job. Now, what is that job of insulin, you may ask? The job of insulin is to do this, to mobilize glucose out of the blood into the cell. You see, when we eat, the end result of absorption is the release of glucose into the blood. Okay. Insulin's job is to move that glucose out of the blood into the cell. When the glucose gets into the cell, there's a small energy factory in the cell called the mitochondria. Okay. And in the mitochondria, the glucose goes through a complex series of reactions called the electron transport chain with the result of an energy molecule called ATP, stands for adenosine triphosphate. That's just simply energy. So that's what happens when insulin moves glucose into the cell. Now, why is insulin important? Because every cell requires energy to function. The smallest entity of the body is a cell. Cells group up to form tissues, organs, systems form the whole man. And every single cell in the body requires energy to function. The simplest definition of a disease is a group of cells, tissues, organs, or system that has malfunctioned. And the number one reason why a cell malfunctions it is because it doesn't have the energy it needs to function. Okay. Now, insulin then becomes very pivotal because without insulin, you cannot make energy. And every cell in the body needs energy to function. So, when we say that you have insulin resistance, we mean that there is a breakdown in this energy producing process. Insulin cannot do its job well to result in in energy being produced. So, how does this happen? How does insulin resistance or this breakdown, happens? Because once upon a time ago, you had insulin functioning well, and then you have a breakdown. So the breakdown of insulin resistance happens in two ways. The very first way is what I call too much fat accumulation. You see, normally when we eat, this is how a cell normally looks like. When we eat, what happens is that if we eat an excess amount of calories than we're supposed to, the body takes those excess calories, converts them into fat, doesn't know what to do with the fat, and decides to lump it into the cell. I'll draw a replica of this cell right here. So the body takes that extra calories, and converts it into fat and lumps the fat into the cell. This cell now becomes what I call a fat laden cell, and that's not good because if you remember, the job of insulin is that when there is glucose in the blood, insulin knocks on the door of the cell and tells the cell to get the glucose into the cell so that energy can be made. But when you have this cell that is fat laden, when insulin comes to the door of the cell and knocks on the door of the cell, and asks the cell to open, the cell says, "I'm sorry, I got no room in the inn. If I were to bring glucose in, glucose is not going to have any place to lay its head in the inn. The inn is full." So the cell refuses to open its doors to the knocking of insulin and doesn't bring glucose in. If glucose cannot enter the cell, it cannot go through the energy factory to make energy, you have a problem. So that's the first way in which you develop insulin resistance, in which your insulin is not effective. So what happens, because this glucose cannot enter the cell, which is fat laden, the glucose now begins to accumulate in the blood, okay? There is a one-to-one relationship between the concentration of glucose and the amount of insulin produced by the pancreas. The pancreas is always going to match the amount of glucose that is in the blood. So when that glucose is rising in the blood like this, a message is sent to the pancreas to say, hey, you need to produce too much insulin, or you need to produce a high amount of insulin to match the glucose. So that message is sent to the pancreas. Too much insulin is not a good thing. It's no bueno. Remember, I described insulin as the CEO of the body that dictates the smooth structure and functioning of the body. So imagine you have a CEO of a company who was normally level-headed, that dictated the smooth structure and functioning of that company. And one day that CEO comes to work, he's gone crazy. He's backing unreasonable demands at his employees. He's firing people for no good reason, yanking people in the hallway, saying you're going to do it my way or the hard way. When a boss begins to behave like that, when they were initially level headed, what happens is that the employees of that boss, of that CEO, lose their respect for the CEO. And when you lose your respect for your boss, if you have a boss and you lost respect for them, it's harder for you to do what the boss tells you to do. You have a reluctance. You translate that to the cell. When insulin is running too high, too much, insulin is acting as a bully and a tyrant to the cell. The cell doesn't take too kindly to that high tone, bully, tyrannical insulin. So the cell loses its respect for insulin. And when the cell loses its respect for insulin, the cell is not excited to do what insulin asks the cell to do. So if insulin asks the cell, open your doors this wide so that I can let glucose into the cell, because the cell has lost its respect for insulin. Instead of opening its doors this wide, the cell opens its doors this wide. When the cell has its doors this wide, what happens is that less glucose enters the cell and more glucose accumulates in the blood. Okay. When you have more glucose that accumulates in the blood, what happens is that it causes a trigger for even more insulin, to be secreted by the pancreas. So remember, the pancreas always has to match the amount of glucose in the blood. So it's like going from fry pan to fire, as if you imagine having a boss that had gone cuckoo, and as if that cuckoo-ness was not enough, the boss raises his crazy level from here to here. The employees of that boss are gonna lose even more respect for the boss. And when they do, they're even more reluctant to obey the boss's commands. You translate that to the cell. When glucose increases even more, the cell, it loses, even when insulin increases even more, is bullying the cell even more. The cell loses even more respect for insulin. When the cell loses even more respect for insulin, it goes from having its doors this wide to now this wide, even tighter. So you're adding insult to injury, going from fry pan to fire. So those are the two ways in which you develop insulin resistance, or your insulin not working well, too much fat and too much insulin. Now, when you have insulin resistance, you're going to have a slew of issues because insulin resistance results in the deficiency of energy, ATP. Every cell needs energy to function. And the cell doesn't have the energy, it cannot function. Let me highlight blood pressure just a little bit. We generate our blood pressure from the artery. There is a special cell in the artery called the endothelial cell. That cell produces a special signaling molecule called nitric oxide. The job of nitric oxide is to go and extend the diameter of the artery to push the diameter of the artery to look wider. So when nitric oxide is in circulation, it causes the diameter of the artery to go from here to wider. And nitric oxide can only be produced when the endothelial cell has ATP. So in the absence of energy, the endothelial cell cannot make nitric oxide. Nitric oxide cannot exert its vasodilatory effect on the walls of the blood vessels. The walls of the blood vessels are now constricted or tighter. You have high blood pressure. So in a situation where you do not have nitric oxide, instead of the diameter of the blood vessel looking like this, the diameter of the blood vessel may be like this. Okay, a tighter diameter, higher blood pressure. So I want you to take home from the fact that insulin resistance, is the key reason why we have most of our diseases because it causes a deficiency of energy and our cells need energy to function. This slide is not exhaustive. There's so many diseases that we cannot encompass on this slide that are the result of insulin resistance. Let's examine the second entity, microbiome dysfunction. And to be able to understand what microbiome dysfunction is, let's explain what the microbiome is in the first place. The microbiome is a group of about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in our large intestine. And we live in a symbiotic relationship with these organisms. Whether we scratch their backs, they scratch us. We're supposed to provide food and shelter for them, and they do several of these functions. I want to highlight this. They help to protect the gut from pathogenic bacteria, it just simply means disease causing bacteria. They do that by producing a very special short chain fatty acid. This short chain fatty acid can only be produced by the activity of the microbiome. You cannot get it from any food. So the short chain fatty acids help to secure the integrity of the gut. The cells of the gut are lined together like this, cell to cell, cell to cell. When a cell and a cell come together, where my knuckles meet is what you call a tight junction. These tight junctions are vulnerable areas in the cell's wall. What happens is that the short chain fatty acids are like concrete. They go and pour concrete on these areas of vulnerability to make them tight. The tighter they are, the less likely you have weakness for bacteria toxins to seep into the blood to cause illness. So the other function I want to highlight is that our microbiome helps to train and regulate our immune system. You may be surprised to learn that 70% of the body's immune system resides in the gut, and the other 30% resides in the bone marrow, lymphatics, and the lymph nodes. So now, when the microbiome is healthy, the microbiome trains the immune system to recognize a threat as a threat, to recognize what is not a threat as what is not a threat, and to apply the appropriate level of force for what is recognized as a threat. It looks like this. When the microbiome is healthy, you may see a bacteria and tell the immune system, that guy there, that bacteria, he's a bad dude. We need to take him out. But you know what? The good news is he's a weak bacteria. You could kill him with a simple stone. Just aim at him with a stone and you'll take him out. And then the microbiome may also tell the immune system when it is healthy. So you know what? You see that guy right there? The immune system may be having trouble finding the guy, and it says, I can't see the guy you're talking about. And the microbiome says, look, the guy I'm talking about right there, you can't see him because he's in camouflage. Listen, that guy who is in camouflage, he may look like the enemy, but he's not the enemy. He may look like a threat, but he's not the threat. Please fire no bullets at him. He's part of our own. Don't harm him. So, appropriately recognizing what is not a threat to not be a threat. When the microbiome is unhealthy, it trains the immune system to have a trigger happy finger. The immune system is radicalized. The immune system is ready to pick a fight, just easily angered. And it looks like this. It's ready to escalate things, makes can sometimes make a mountain out of an anthill. It looks like this. The immune system, when the microbiome is unhealthy, it tells the immune system, you see that bacteria right there, that bacteria is a bad guy. He needs to die. We could probably kill him with a stone, but we've already established that he's a bad guy, right? So why use a stone? Why don't we just make a splash? Let's drop a grenade in his backyard. So for a bacteria that could be killed with a simple stone, the microbiome is telling the immune system, no, let's go big or go home. Let's drop a grenade. So an overkill. And that overkill comes with collateral damage to other tissues and what have you. So it's harmful. The other thing is that the microbiome, when it's unhealthy, it has no tolerance for anybody in camouflage. It may see that guy in camouflage and tell the immune system, I see that guy in camouflage. I know he may be one of us or he may be an enemy, but you know what? We're in the heat of the battle. Let's just take him out. Let's just neutralize him. We'll take him to the autopsy table. If he's an enemy, well, I did good. That would be good for me. If he's not the enemy and was one of us, oh well, so the immune system has now radicalized. The immune system has now been radicalized by the microbiome to shoot first, ask questions later. And that leads in attacking of the body's tissues, resulting in autoimmune diseases. So those are the functions that I wanted to highlight. We'll come back to this slide shortly, but what then is microbiome dysfunction or dysbiosis? You see, the bacteria that live in the colon live in the 50-50% population. So 50% of them are what we call bad bacteria, and the other 50% are good bacteria. They balance each other out. Now, we say you have microbiome dysfunction when there is an imbalance in that microbial population. The bad bacteria become 70%, increase to 70%, and the good bacteria decrease, to maybe 30%. That imbalance we call dysbiosis. And the number one reason for imbalance like this is the shortage of food. You see, the food for the microbiome is fiber. And unfortunately, in our day and age, we're not consuming enough fiber. And when you don't consume enough fiber, when there's shortage of food, survival of the fetus sets in. When survival of the fetus sets in, the bad bacteria, the stronger bacteria, they hoard the food to themselves. The little food that is there, hoard it to themselves, and they say, you know what? In order for us to increase our army, why? In order for us to increase our hold on this little food that is there, let's increase our army so we can keep a hold on that food. And as a result, they go to 70 while the bad bacteria decrease. That imbalance is what we call dysbiosis. And when you have dysbiosis, it causes a slew of illnesses. This slide is not exhaustive. Lupus, autoimmune disease, the microbiome has a trigger happy finger, shooting first, ask question later. Hashimoto, autoimmune disease. MS, autoimmune disease. Celiac, autoimmune disease. I want to highlight anxiety and depression because some of you may find it very surprising to know that anxiety and depression is linked to the gut. Now, there is a hormone or a neurotransmitter called serotonin. Serotonin is what we call the happy hormone or the mood hormone. 90% of that hormone is produced in the gut, and the other 10% of it is produced in the central nervous system. So when the gut is unhealthy, dysbiosis, this 90% cannot be produced. And if it helps to maintain mood and happiness, it's no doubt then why you have anxiety and depression. This next slide represents what I call the metabolic sequence of disease, and it depicts that two entities, insulin resistance and dysbiosis, after they result in energy shortage, result in injury to the cell that turns on the inflammatory response. You have a chronic inflammatory response that leads to diseases and symptoms. Now, as much as there is evidence that suggests that current day non-communicable diseases are the result of energy shortage, we also now have evidence that shows that if you reverse the insulin resistance and the dysbiosis that resulted in the energy shortage, you could reverse the disease condition. And that should be hope to us. And I like giving this analogy of a car that is you're driving on the road that runs out of gas. That car stops. It stops because it has ran out of its energy source. If you were to walk to the nearest gas station, put gas in a gallon and walk back to your car on the side of the road and put gas back in that car, you're going to hear the beautiful ignition sound when the car is roaring back to life. The car roars back to life because its problem was not that there was an intrinsic failure of the engine. Its problem was that it had an energy shortage. So it is with the body. If you're able to restore the energy shortage by reversing the two entities that resulted, you can reverse the disease condition. And so I want to introduce to you guys a product that has become my very favorite tool, which is a solution in doing just that, reversing the energy shortage that comes as a result of insulin resistance and dysbiosis, addressing the root cause. These two solutions are what we call a nutraceutical product, and they are part of this combination called the Feel Great system. A nutraceutical product is a product that is made 100% from plants and has therapeutic benefits. Okay. Now, some of you on here may be in the healthcare industry, and you may be surprised to learn that both of these products are listed in the PDL, Physician's Desk Reference. So let's single out each of them and see how they help in reversing the two root causes. The first product is called Unimate, made from a plant that is native to South America called the yerba mate plant. This plant is very rich in a special phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid. And what chlorogenic acid does is that it has a special property called lipolysis. It induces lipolysis, fancy medical term just to say fat burning, okay? Now, imagine inducing lipolysis, fat burning. Let's go back to how you developed insulin resistance. You had this fat-laden cell. So if you now have a product like the Unimate, which is going to go and induce lipolysis, the Unimate, uh, what happens is that you use up the fat in this cell. Lipolysis occurs after consumption of a Unimate, and this cell, which was fat laden, now transforms into going back to status quo, a normal looking cell that is free. That's good news because the glucose that had accumulated in the blood when this cell was pregnant with fat, that glucose can now go into the cell. When that glucose goes into the cell, it can run through the electron transport chain, resulting in producing energy. You have reversed the first part of insulin resistance by causing this fat-laden cell to now look like this. Now, what now happens is that by default causes a resolution of the second part of insulin resistance, too much insulin. Now that all that glucose has entered the cell, the concentration of glucose in the blood is going to decrease. When that decreases, a message is sent to the pancreas to say, hey, give us now low insulin. You don't need to be producing as high insulin as you were before. Glucose levels in the blood have now declined. So what happens is that the pancreas now decreases its production of insulin. When the pancreas decreases its production of insulin, it's like that CEO who was crazy. He comes to work one day, he has an awakening or what have you, and calls an in-service and tells his employees, "Hey guys, I know I've been a jerk of a boss for the last 2 months, 3 months. I know I asked things of you that were unreasonable. I spoke unrespectfully to you guys. I fired some of your colleagues for no good reason. I'm truly sorry," with a contrite heart. What happens is that the employees of a boss like that are, first of all, taken by his apology and his humility, and it results in the employees accepting the apology and regaining respect back for their boss. When you regain your respect back for your boss, you're no longer reluctant to do what the boss asks you to do. You translate that to the cell. When the cell regains back its respect for insulin, when insulin asks the cell, "Now open your doors this wide so I could let glucose in," the cell is happy to open its doors that wide. So you have now reversed the two stages of insulin resistance, the too much fat and too much insulin. That's what the Unimate does. Fiber does exactly the same thing. It does exactly the same process in reversing insulin resistance through lipolysis. But the other thing that fiber does is that it helps to decrease your glycemic index, meaning decreases your blood sugar spikes and improves insulin sensitivity or reverses insulin resistance. It does it by this way. Fiber slows the absorption of carbohydrates. So if you and I went to an Italian restaurant to eat, and we both wanted to eat lasagna, and that's you and that's me, and you ate your lasagna without fiber. By the way, the second product called the balance, I talk about fiber because the second product called the balance is just fiber from 7 different plants. Okay, that's it. Now, I know a thing or two about fiber, but you don't. You go ahead and eat your lasagna. This is what your blood sugar will do. You do it without fiber, and your blood sugar may go to a blood sugar of 170. For me, I know a thing or two about fiber. So I take the balanced product, which is just fiber, before I eat my lasagna, and I eat the exact same quantity of lasagna you had. My blood sugar is going to do this. And that the peak in my blood sugar may be a blood sugar of 80. You and I have eaten the same plate of lasagna, but a fiber has blunted my blood sugar rise because it slows carbohydrate absorption. The implications of this is that because your blood sugar went up to 170, your pancreas is going to produce a commensurate higher amount of insulin to deal with that blood sugar of 170. So for you, your pancreas may produce 20 units of insulin right here. For me, my pancreas, because I've only produced 80 units of 80 milligrams of glucose, my pancreas is going to produce a commensurate lower amount of insulin, and maybe 5 units of insulin. I want you to think about 20 units of insulin as the crazy CEO who the employees do not respect. It's high tone. And I want you to think about 5 units of insulin as a humble CEO who the employees respect. So that's what fiber does. Decreases your glycemic index, decreases your insulin spikes, makes your body more sensitive to insulin. The other thing I'll throw here is that the higher your insulin, the more calories you're going to store. So from this plate of lasagna, you may gain 950 calories because your insulin was 20. For me, from that plate of lasagna, I may only gain 400 calories because my insulin produced was 5. Same quantity of lasagna, but you and I are living with two different glycemic indexes, and one of us is more sensitive to insulin than the other, and one of us is leaving the restaurant weighing more calories than the other. Now, that's what fiber does. The last thing that fiber does is that fiber helps to reverse dysbiosis. You see, the food for the microbiome, as I mentioned, was fibers. When you have a shortage of fiber, that the bad bacteria hoard the food and cause that imbalance. When you now consume fiber, which the balance has, you have enough fiber to go around for the good and the bad bacteria. There's no need for survival of the feeders or fighting, and that maintains a normal balance. And I like to say, unfortunately, we do not consume enough fiber. Every a man is supposed to consume 38 grams of fiber a day, a woman average of 25 grams. In the US, we're consuming 10 to 12 grams of fiber a day. Our ancestors consumed about 80 to 90 grams of fiber a day. So, um, that is it. Every living organism needs food, and it's no difference with the microbiome. They're bacteria, but they're living organisms and they need fiber. So that's how these two products go to the root cause of the issue, reversing insulin resistance and reversing dysbiosis. And it is helping hundreds and hundreds of people to be able to take back their lives again. So if you suffer from any elements of dysbiosis or any elements of insulin resistance, I have good news for you. The Feel Great System nutraceutical product can help you to be able to reclaim your health again, experience true and lasting health. Thank you. I will stop my screen sharing and I will yield to Dr. Kenny. Dr. Kenny, you need to unmute.
Sorry, Dr. Dieter. Thank you so much, brother. Great presentation as always. I'm going to pull up my computer and show some photos here. Ah. And this right here, the first one I'm going to show is how embarrassed that I am. This was me in February of 2024. So not only does insulin control weight and storage mode, but it also makes you age. And I was aging and aging, not only physically, but I felt it. My brain was on fire. I was foggy. And it put me in the hospital for nearly 2 months, and I nearly died two different times. When I got out and I utilized this protocol that Dr. Dieter just shared, I went from that picture on the left to the one on the right in 35 days. I've been able to reverse my fatty liver, my sleep apnea is gone, my cardiac AFib is gone, testosterone is back to normal, blood work's perfect, and I feel like 20 plus years younger. This is Keith. Keith is a type 2, was a type 2 diabetic. This was a foot ulcer. And I had honestly never seen one of these. I'm sure Dr. Dieter has, and Dr. Dieter deals with these kind of things, but holy smokes. And Keith was pronounced dead earlier this year for 1 minute. They brought him back to life, and this system has transformed his life. He's got off 108 units of insulin in 2 days, completely reversed type 2. He's down over 90 pounds. May have him share here in a moment. This is a husband and wife. And what blows my mind about this here is the picture on the right. They're supposed to be going into their golden years. Golden for who? For these big corporations that are managing the care, or for them and their family? The picture on the left, I ask every one of you, if you knew them and saw them where they were and where they are on the picture on the left, would you ask them what they have done? If you would, just put a question mark in the chat. The reason I bring this to your attention is our company provides you as a customer with a discount code. And when your family and friends ask you about this and what you're doing, you can share that code to provide them the same discount, but you get a $10 coupon as a way of saying thank you. Now, this is my friend John I've met through this. John traveled 1 hour to say thank you to me. The man on the left was a 67-year young man. He was lost. He had fatty liver, had never drank alcohol. He had skin tags and belly fat, triple digit both blood pressure numbers, and sleep apnea so bad it was waking up his neighbors, he said. That is just a handful of months apart. John is down 60 pounds. Blood pressure is back to normal. No medications. Fatty liver completely reversed. And this man shares this with people all the time. Here is our very own famous Dr. Dieter. I had him beat. I had him outweighed. He was 220 pounds on the left. We were definitely healthy, weren't we, Doc?
Yes, we were. Picture
Oh
of
man.
health.
Oh man. And people a lot of times will ask me, and I'm so grateful for this photo because they can say, why not just fast? And this was Dr. Dieter on the right in the middle. And he had been fasting. And this was 6 years apart, and he was running 3 times a week. And obviously, tremendous difference. Fasting is incredible. But you might be struggling and think, I've tried fasting, it doesn't work, or I can't do it. And that's where this protocol, these tools come in. And even Dr. Dieter, knowing that, said, well, this just makes sense. This is 2 months on the Feel Great system, the protocol that we share. And Dr. Dieter has been totally transformed. Now, this is a friend of mine, Colleen. This is 1 year apart. These products are food. And so, are we going to stop eating? People ask this all the time. I'm a lifer. And if you're on this protocol and you know you're going to be a lifer, you can type lifer in the chat. But Colleen was able to reverse her type 2 diabetes, get off of her statin. And this lady's on 1/4 of a thyroid medication. And she said the next visit, her doctor told her by the looks of it, she was probably going to be off that as well. Now, this is a friend of ours, and Dr. Dieter breaks down gut dysbiosis better than anybody I've ever seen. And gut dysbiosis, you'll hear it called leaky gut. This is our friend Deb. Deb was a size 12 on the picture on the left. She also had severe insulin resistance. She had headaches. She had allergies. She also had IBS, an autoimmune disease, and she had low testosterone. Within 7 months, this was Deb. Her testosterone's back to normal. Her IBS is gone. Her gut disorder is gone. Her allergies gone, and she's a size 4. This is our friend Angelita. She's a nurse practitioner right in Dr. Dieter's town there at Fort Worth. And she was on 6 medications a day. Her husband is a doctor of pharmacy. They're both on the protocol. And she was on these 6 medications, 5 for GERD and IBS, and 1 for antidepressant, excuse me. And in 2 weeks, Angelita was able to get off all of those. This is her today. Now, this I like to show this because there is some natural caffeine found in this tea. But this is a box from Canada and it says low energy. There's actually theobromine in the tea. I had cardiac AFib. Dr. Dieter would attest this. You're probably told not to have caffeine. I saw the value of this. I did it. I had zero issues with it. Now, theobromine opens up the blood vessels and it trumps the effects you would get with like a coffee that has caffeine in it that causes the epinephrine surge. Now we have a low caffeine dose of the same tea. Now, this is another one. So, this is another individual, a type 2 diabetic for 25 years. He had been managing his care under the standard managed system. And he found me talking about this earlier in January. Now, he used his FSA, if you're not familiar, but FSAs and HSAs are for high deductible insurance policies. And because these are nutraceuticals located in the physician's desk reference, this gentleman used that to purchase this system. In 1 month, his foot ulcer had healed up that he'd been struggling with off and on for 25 years. He also reversed his type 2 diabetes in 1 month. This is Keith. This is a follow up. That's where it started. This is after treatments using hyperbaric chambers, 180,000. This is 3.5 months on this protocol. And this is Chopper that we'll have share. Chopper, I'm going to not take his thunder, but this man has had some really tremendous results, and I'll let him share in a moment. And Chris, this is a pastor. And Chris, in I forget how many, I think it was 4 months, he reversed his type 2. He's currently down 90 pounds off his blood pressure meds, all medications, all gone. And I'm going to bring on, if you would, Dr. Dieter, let's fire up
Mm-hmm.
Chopper. I think he was going to share, and
Yeah.
Keith, if
Yeah,
possible.
sure, sure. All right. I have Chopper on.
Howdy.
Hello.
How you doing?
Well, Chopper, what was your life like before you started this protocol, and what have you had happen since, brother?
All right, a little bit about me. I'm Chopper, retired firefighter from Southern California. Prior to the protocol, I was I'm type 2 diabetic. What led me down this road was in 2016, I got hurt on a fire, and my identity pretty much was taken from me. And my career came to a crashing halt. I wound up in a really dark place, and I started drinking, and one thing led to another. In 2019, it finally all came to a whole like just donkey kick to the chest, and I went to the hospital. Didn't know I was a diabetic. My doctor failed to tell me that for a year and a half, 2 years, that I was a type 2 diabetic. So I go to the doctors. My A1C was 13.7. My blood glucose was like 476 or something in that range. Um, Started feeling really bad. Went to the hospital. Was in a coma for 7 days. I was in DKA. I coded twice. I took up all the potassium in the valley that we lived in, the three hospitals combined. I took all their potassium and just to keep me alive. And it wasn't for a nurse that was very persistent with the doctor. Just she even came in our days off to take care of me for like 2 days. And if it wasn't for her and nurses and the doctors, I wouldn't even be here right now. To be honest with you, um, it's pretty crazy to talk about that. Um, but since I've been on it though, the last 60 days, I reversed my type 2 diabetes. I'm down like 38 pounds. I'm able to sleep again. I All the inflammation that I've had from the years of service that I was in, pretty much subsided, pretty much gone. Um, uh, the best part is, I guess, just have a new wardrobe again, just because the clothes fit me. And I do suffer from some PTSD, and this has really helped me with that. Kind of diminished the triggers and the stuff that I was going through for several years. And I mean, it's all because of this protocol, and it's crazy. I don't know how to explain it to people. I just say it's magic. I don't know what it is.
I mean, what does your wife think about that? I mean, I'm sure, right? Like,
Oh, she's doing awesome too. She's down 11 pounds. She's sleeping better. She's happy go lucky now. Like she's not depressed. It's life changing. Honestly, it's been amazing. I try to share with all my friends and my family, and some of them are open to it. The other ones just not yet. And hopefully one day they'll figure it out.
hard to deny. And I remember you put your ring back on, right? Or
I
something. Like you
did.
were saying that the other day.
Yeah, I
Like,
took it off. I took it off earlier because I was cooking and doing some stuff in the kitchen. But yeah, I don't want to lose it in the sink. So yeah, no, it fits again. After 15 years, my wedding ring finally fit. Um, and I wouldn't wear it anyways at work because of what we did for a living, and I didn't want it to conduct something or the chainsaw catch it and it would rip my finger off or deglove it or something. So I just never wore it. So, but then it never fit. So like it was just bad. But now it fits. So we're good.
man, that is amazing. And I mean, I hear this all the time. I've noticed this my own 13-year-old. Her mood is totally different on this protocol. And Dr. Dieter really laid that out if people are coming in later, why that happens. But man, I'm so great. I hear that a lot, Chopper, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, we all go in some of those places sometimes we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I've never found something. I mean, is this simple to you? Has it been pretty sustainable and simple? Is it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
These days.
it's very simple. You wake up in the morning instead of drinking the 26-ounce coffee cup or coffee creamer with a little bit of coffee. Um, I drink the Unamate, and sometimes I'll do two, depending on my shift at work. And then my largest meal, I do the one balance or the one fiber, and I'm good to go. But then I watched the thing this morning. I might start doing two fibers. Um, for I think for every year, she said it was like a month to do it every single day or something like that. So I was thinking about just doing the 6 months of that, just to see how my blood work is.
Yeah, I personally, and if I eat 2 meals in a day, I eat a fiber every time.
Me
So,
too. Me
yeah,
too.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, Dr. Dieter and I, we all know. I mean, if you ask a diabetic, right, if
Yeah.
they eat and keep blood sugar lower, they need to inject less insulin. So we would make
Yeah.
less insulin, right? So,
Yeah.
I'll probably start doing that then.
Yeah. Fiber is your friend. And you remember I said in my presentation, our ancestors were consuming about 80 to 90 grams of fiber a day. That's why they didn't have these non-communicable diseases that we have.
Yeah. And then one day I'll show you the picture of me in the hospital bed. I've only seen it once. And it was enough for me to see. I was like, wow, I can't believe I let myself go to be in that position. But one day I'll get the courage to show you guys.
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, Chopper, thank you so much. Did Dr. Dieter, Vicky might be able to speak if she's available. She's a
Oh,
type 1. And then
Sure.
Keith. Vicky, if you're able to speak, just let us know. Where's she at? Yes, she is perfect. Yeah, if you Vicky Chadwell, if we can highlight her, let me see here. I think I should be able to do that. And then we can have Mr. Keith.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, there she is.
Okay. But does she need to have a video on to highlight her?
She might. Can you do that, Vicky?
Give me 1 second.
We
I
know.
think I did it.
It says Vicky, the person who changed your diapers when you were a kid.
Yeah, she did, man. Yeah, right. So, and funny story, right? This is I didn't, yeah, I didn't really know Vicky, and my mom introduced her to this because it transformed my mom's health, Dr. Dieter. And I don't even know if I've shared this with you, brother, but my mom's going through renal cell carcinoma, and her kidney function on the protocol went up from 23 to 56% in 2 months.
That's
And then
great.
her blood work came back perfect last Friday, first time in 40 years. And so she's the one that
Wow.
told Vicky. And yeah, Vicky, well, Vicky, I'll let you tell it, right? I was kind of full of poo, right? I was full of poo poo again. Oh,
Yeah, so I like Kenny said, I got introduced by Lana, his mom, and I'm just eternally grateful for that, for her reaching out to me about it, because it truly has given me life that I didn't even realize I was missing out on. And try not to get emotional here. Just every once in a while, it just hits me how far I've come in this year. And in the beginning, I got emotional all the time, but it doesn't really happen a whole lot now. But it just really has, like I said, given me my life back. I'm been type 1 for 36 years, and I was taking 55 to 65 units every day, and sometimes more than that even. And now I'm down to like 12, 15 units a day, which is just absolutely incredible. So a 79% daily reduction in my intake of insulin. And I've done a little bit of research and just to see like what does a normal body make of insulin? How many units does a normal body make of insulin per day? And it's like 20, 22 units of insulin a day.
Wow.
And so I'm taking less than the normal body produces, which is
Wow.
crazy, right?
Wow.
So
and I
that
don't
just
think you said, Vicky, you said you don't take it before you eat anymore, typically either, right? I mean, like unless you're
no,
going to do something
not
like a birthday party or something like that, right?
yeah. If I'm doing a really high carb item, I will take a little bit, but normally no, I don't. Like if I'm just eating what I normally eat, no, I don't have to take insulin before I eat.
Yeah.
You know, can you
So
And
put
this
perspective?
is crazy because Vicky's a type 1 diabetic. She is absolutely insulin dependent,
mhm.
genetic failure of her pancreas to make enough insulin. And to think that this has radically changed her life for her to be requiring less insulin than she usually injected. It's just mind blowing. Dr. Kenny, I remember when you first told me this story as a physician, I had goosebumps. I was like, type 1? This was when I was just very new learning about this. I was like, are you kidding me? A type 1?
Yeah.
It blew my mind, but the biology makes sense. It's just amazing.
You know, Dr. Dieter, she said something too that really put it in perspective. Vicky, correct me if I'm wrong, it was something like 1,850 pokes a year, and now you're
Yeah.
down to like
So
40.
yeah, so I used to take 5 shots a day. And before I got my insulin pump, that was 1,825 shots a year. And then I got my insulin pump and I had to change it every 3 days. So that was 121 or 122 times that I had to change my cannula. And now I change it once every 9 days, and that's 40 pokes a year. So
Wow.
over this year, I went from 121 to it's not even been a year. It's only been 10 months. I went from 121 pokes a year to 40. But
Wow.
prior to that, if I was still doing syringes, it would be enormous.
So you're
I
saying this
mean,
is slightly more easy to do?
yeah. I still, after 36 years, I still, when I have to change that cannula every 9 days, it's still like I have to like psych myself up to do it because I don't like sticking myself in the stomach and I hate it. After all this time, I hate it. But to know that I only have to do it once every 9 days now, it's like I can make this happen. So, like I say, it has given me my life back. I did not realize how bad I felt until I felt good. I didn't realize what it felt like to feel good, basically.
And one
And
thing, Vicky, I'm sorry, you were a type 2, and Dr. Dieter, I forgot to tell you, she was a double diabetic, right?
Oh, yeah.
And she dropped her A1C to 5.9, brother. That was
yeah,
back in like July, right?
yeah, and I don't get it done again for another couple months. So I don't know what it is now, but I know it's better because I'm perfectly healthy now. Like everything is good. My cholesterol came down, my blood pressure came down. I have Hashimoto's, that number came down. So there's nothing that's not improving with me. I've lost 50 pounds, which, everybody wants to lose weight, obviously, but that's just been an extra bonus for me because getting my health back was really what was the most important thing. And I'd done every diet, so I didn't expect to be successful with weight loss. But there again, like it doesn't even make sense in my head. I can't wrap my head around it because I eat normal food. Like I'm used to eating out of packages or some strange concoction, but I'm eating perfectly normal food that anybody can have access to without any extra money. So it's just been an incredible experience.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Vicky, for sharing your story. I want to highlight Dr. Tiffany and bring her in. Vicky, thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is a question in the chat, and I'll post it to Dr. Kenny and Tiffany.
Is she on
That's
her menstrual cycle too? Because that's something too, Dr. Dieter. I'm sure you get that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, yes. This is the first time I'm getting this, so I'll let you both weigh in. I've not, Yvonne is asking, you've been on it for 1 week now, and you have gained some weight. Is that normal?
I've
I have
seen that
not
happen for
I
sure.
have not seen that. So if you guys could help to tease that out. Um, have you seen that, Dr. Kenny, Dr. Tiffany? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've definitely seen
So
that.
what could be? Because this shouldn't cause you to gain weight. So there has to be some other
Well, if a lady's
confounding
menstruating, that's
factor.
going to
Yeah.
cause water retention. I mean, if somebody's flying, if there's definitely things there. I wouldn't go by a week. I wouldn't even worry about that personally. But this isn't weight loss. But I've even had people gain weight on the protocol. So, like George Vila is a type 2 diabetic, 73-year young man. He lost 14 inches off his waist and added 9 pounds. And let me show you, this will maybe give some. Now, this is early on for a vet, so she's only on the protocol for a week, but this is 5 pounds of muscle, and that's 5 pounds of fat. Which one takes up more space in the body? And so, what I tell people to do is look at how your clothes are fitting. Are your rings, is the inflammation coming down? That's telling you that you're getting inflammation, you're burning fat. And when you do this, and when you're fasting, you're going to put on human growth, you're going to increase human growth hormone testosterone. So people start to get, I've gotten stronger, I've gotten more muscle than I've ever had in my life. And so those are things that will happen. So and Dr. Tiffany being a female, I mean, and a medical doctor, she can chime in too for obvious reasons, but I wouldn't get worried about a week, is what I'm trying to say.
Dr. Tiffany, your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, it's just hard to tell a woman not to worry about the scale. We've been trained to
Yeah,
follow it.
that's
Um,
true. That's true. It's a
at,
very
at
sensitive thing. Yeah.
we've been trained to follow for years. So what I do with my ladies is I try to get them to their measurements at first because I know they're going to run into this. I mean, so many of us have gained weight just smelling a cupcake. And so if it's that particular point in a month, the week before your menstrual cycle, when progesterone is like really trying to get you to peck on weight, it seems like everything makes that easier. So I don't know where she is in her menstrual cycle. Kenny gave a good point. I don't know how she eats when she breaks her fast. That's the other thing. You can be doing the products right, but if you're breaking your fast and you're still too carb heavy, you're going to just mess up what you've been doing with your fasting. So there's so many variables that a one-on-one conversation is needed. And that's the great thing about having these products is you get somebody to actually work with you on these things.
Mhm.
I've got a video too of that, and Dr. Dieter may, Dr. Tiffany may, about how to break your fast. If you need that, we can get that to you. And I did a video on menstruation. I'm sure Dr. Tiffany probably has about your menstrual cycle because most women have no clue about their menstrual cycle. And if you understand what Dr. Tiffany just said, you know how to feed your cycle and what part of your cycle you're in, you're going to make fasting easier. And it's usually, I mean, what is it, Dr. Tiffany? Probably a couple months for women to catch up. And then like the fat burning really kicks on for women. Men start off really quick, typically, ladies. So don't get down about that. Just be consistent and use it properly and do what Dr. Tiffany just said.
Joanne Holmes asks, what should you do if you're losing muscle mass? Dr. Kenny, I'll let you take that. You have expertise in that. You should not be losing muscle mass with this. So, Dr. Kenny, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how do you think you're losing muscle mass? I've only put muscle on. Yeah, so if you're doing it properly, like Dr. Tiffany just said, when you break a fast, you want to start with fiber. Then you want to eat good, healthy fats and protein, and quite a bit of protein. Those are going to fill you up. If you're going to have carbs, eat carbs last. But if you're getting proper protein, there's no way you're going to be losing muscle.
Yeah, and to add to what Dr. Kenny is saying, when you have insulin resistance, it triggers sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass, okay? When you start reversing insulin resistance, the opposite happens. You start gaining muscle mass. So this doesn't cause you to lose muscle mass. It's just the biology of muscle mass loss is linked to insulin resistance, and this helps to reverse insulin resistance to gain muscle.
You know, Dr. Dieter, I had that as a kid. My nickname was Skinny Kenny. I couldn't put muscle on. I mean, straight up, it was terrible. And like when I fixed my, yeah, it was terrible. When I started fixing my insulin, now I'm putting muscle on. Like I'm stronger than I've ever been. So that was my nickname growing up. I was like, terrible.
Skinny.
Can I add? I mean, so one of the other issues people run into is they'll be drinking the teas, they'll be doing the balance, and it works too well. So they don't want to eat. Well, if you aren't eating enough, then yeah, you're going to end up causing trouble because you do need to eat. We don't want you to starve and not eat. I mean, unless you're practicing fasting for a particular time and then feeding and fueling outside of that, that's different. And so that's one of the things I run into also with either people who can't lose weight or people who feel like they're losing too much weight or losing muscle.
You know, Dr. Tiffany, I want to share something what you just said. That was so profound. My wife, when she started this, she lost 3 pounds really quick that first week, a lot of water, and then she stagnated for a couple. But her body was transforming. I could see it in her, like, because she wears scrubs. Well, we were in the shower together. She's probably killing me for telling you guys this. And she didn't look good. And I'm like, honey, what's wrong? She goes, I don't know. I don't. And I go, well, are you fasting? She's no, I just ate. I go, well, what did you eat? And she goes, I ate 3 pieces of cheese and salami. And I went, well, that's why. She's, what do you, I said, honey, when you're fasting, you're tapping into fat, which is like unlimited energy. But when you eat, you got to eat. And she still didn't get it. I said, look, if you had to fill up your car, the gas tank, I go, do you fill up it with an eighth of a tank or do you fill up the whole tank? I said, because you just turned fat burning off, so you need to fill up the tank. And she got it. So Dr. Tiffany's spot on. So many times we're so stuck in that calorie restriction mode. This is not about reducing your calories. Eat until you are satiated. You will know when you eat fat, fiber, and protein. You'll know when you're full. If you start with carbs, there's a reason they tell you once you pop, you can't stop. You can't have just one. They're always telling you what they're doing to you. So I hope that helps.
May I interject?
Yes.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Kenny. This is Dr. Andrew Godenik. We had a conversation earlier today.
Hey, what's up, brother?
I'm interested in the more about the nutrition aspect, breaking the fast. And are you limiting things like ice cream and, things that they enjoy, things that bring them joy, right? People that have their sort of food routines. That I think is one of the hardest things is sustainability in this program. Perhaps the GLP-1 is modified enough to reduce that hunger, but at the same time, we're creatures of habit, so we end up eating the stuff maybe that doesn't serve the purpose of what this system is aimed at doing, getting metabolic flexibility and reversing insulin resistance. So if you could speak on specifically the, let's say, meal planning or diet part of this plan, that would be helpful, I think.
Yeah,
It's
so if people
beautiful.
yeah, if people like with me personally, like I don't like I hate to say this, but I got a lot of bourbon. I used to drink bourbon, not a lot, but throughout the like I would have like a drink or two a month. And I don't like crave that. Like I don't crave the foods. I just don't crave the stuff anymore. And if you're on this protocol, you guys are like Dr. Tiffany's shaking her head, like I just don't want that stuff anymore. And if you have trouble with that, I know Keith, he was a type two, and he would wake up with food cravings in the middle of the night, and he would just keep the tea by his bed and sip the tea. And the bitterness of the tea, there's a slight bitterness that, like, I think it's for ferulic acid. Is that correct, Dr.?
Yeah.
And it basically that's what stimulates the GLP. And so the GLP that your body makes, you'll have a bite or two and you're done with it. And so as long as they eat it last, that's okay. The problem today is everybody's waking up and they're having dessert for breakfast. They're eating cereal, they're eating yogurts and all these things. That's dessert. That's sugar. That's a sugar load right from the get-go, and you're blowing up insulin all day. And when you're not doing that, your body will go back to craving food. And I don't know. I haven't craved that stuff. And I think Dr. Dieter, have you noticed that?
Yeah, I will add, Dr. Kenny, to what you're saying, and hopefully this answers your question even more. Two things here. Number one, when you start this protocol, you really don't have to have any change in your diet, any huge change in your diet. I will speak personally. When I started this protocol, I did not change what I ate. The beauty about this nutraceutical is you could enjoy the stuff that you usually like to enjoy, knowing that this is going to decrease your glycemic index, this is going to keep things in check. I did not make any willpower changes in, okay, I'm only going to eat this. I'm no longer going to eat ice cream or what have you. So number one, there's no change in diet required. But the other thing that happens naturally is that when your metabolism, which Dr. Kenny speaks to, when your metabolism begins to reorder, your body knows the foods that it needs that are supposed to be healthy. There is an African snack called chin chin that I loved so much. I used to eat. My favorite African American candy is a payday. I used to eat a payday once a day, sometimes two times a day. When I started reordering my metabolism, I did not crave that African snack. It's not like I had a willpower that I will not take it anymore. I did not crave the payday. It's not like I was fighting willpower. As your metabolism begins to reorder, your body knows what it doesn't need that is giving it poison. And your body just turns those things off. So what I'll say to you, I didn't catch your name, I'm sorry, is that this is not a diet. Just introduce this into your life. Do not cut out anything or say, I'm not going to eat this. Your body is going to reorder itself, even while you're eating what you love to eat, and give you the metabolic benefits that you want. Dr. Tiffany, do you have anything?
Well, because there are some people that actually want an eating plan, but that's the beauty of this, is it's for everybody. You have your people that don't stop their McDonald's every day. That's not what I've ever said I wanted them to do, but they don't. But once these products get into their system, then they start making choices without being restricted. Nobody does well when you tell them they can't do something. I mean, I've learned that practicing for 20 years. That never worked. So that's why I like adding these products, and then you start making the right choices without even realizing that's what you're doing, because that's what you want.
Yeah, and Dr. Andrew, I think what he's also, I spoke to him earlier. He's looking at like skilled facilities and people with like maybe some dementia that need to get
I see.
serious.
I
Yeah.
see. I
I should
see.
have clarified that.
Right.
That was my fault, Dr. Andrew. But I've noticed, like Dr. Tiffany said, I just want people to get it in them. And then they start getting some results. And it's like people get honestly hope back. They're like, wait a minute, something's working. Like, and then they want to take the step. So, if somebody's like, I think Dr. Andrew, what you're saying, like in a specific spot with brain, things happening and you got to reverse things. And yeah, I mean, I think, we could look at getting more aggressive, but for the most parts, I mean, I would just let them do it. And Dr. Brown, I forgot to mention, she's an endocrinologist and friend of ours. Her dad developed dementia from type 2 diabetes over 28 years. And he was so bad that she didn't have him fasting. She just had him taking the products. He loved to eat, and I didn't want to take that from him. And he was able in 6 months to reverse his type 2. And he recently passed, but she goes, I just wish I would have known sooner. You know what I mean? So that's another factor, but I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you. If I may have a follow-up, um, I have dabbled in intermittent fasting, compressed feeding window. I have found myself coming out of the fast 16 hours or so ravenous. And since I've seen you, Dr. Kenny, and what you're sharing on TikTok, I found the product fascinating
Mhm.
a little bit and thought, yeah, this makes sense. So now try to apply some of it in my current day to day without taking the product. But I use chia seed, for example, 2 scoops of it, and I found a product that's kind of I guess it's an yerba mate product that's like pouring in tea kind of thing. And I've noticed, the mental clarity for sure. I've noticed that I have no appetite really. And I then once I ate, before I ate, I took the chia seed and I find myself, eating still a lot, but this is maybe the first few 5 days. So I guess when it comes to the chlorogenic acid concentration, I know it's a hyper concentrated yerba mate product. And then it's the fiber that's very specific amount of complex carbohydrate. I don't know much more about it other than that it's a specific blend of soluble and insoluble fiber. So I guess when it comes to other than being in the PDR and obviously the obvious benefits that you've seen in these anecdotal experiences of the product. How could you compare, let's just say, if someone wants to do the high fiber before a meal, and then, using just like a tea, would you compare that if someone said, hey, well, I want to do it that way, and it's going to be pennies on the dollar compared to the program? Have you had anyone, give you okay, why is it better than doing that in terms of efficacy?
Oh yeah, I've had
Oh,
people try
definitely.
to do that. And
Yep.
yeah, and this is 7 blend fiber. It's clinically proven to do it. It keeps blood sugar lower by 43%. When you're drinking the tea, this was my problem when I would fast. I would break my fast ravenous and eat the wrong food, crave carbs, and your insulin levels are already sensitive. When you're drinking this tea, I don't crave like that. And then the fiber squashes it. And we have all the data to back that up. There's not a fiber on the planet that does what this fiber does.
That's great. And one of the things I noticed is for me, postprandial paralysis. When you come out of your fasting, you break your fast with this fiber, the balance, unicity balance. Have you found you have a drop off in your energy when you first eat because you're transitioning from fat metabolism to, I guess,
Initially, some people may get a little tired after
sleepy?
they eat, but once they
Yeah.
transition and like fix their insulin, no, I'm ready to go.
And that's the fixing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is that the fixing of the metabolic, the insulin
Yeah,
resistance
once you
of
get
the
that
cell?
reset, Andrew. Yeah, once you get that reset, like energy, Dr. Dieter was even going to help. Like your energy just takes off.
It's when your body transitions better between carb in fat burning or fat burning to carb burning. And it also depends on how heavy that carb meal is that you first break your fast with.
Yep.
But I actually, real quick, before I even decided I was going to have anything to do with these products, I had patients and I had them doing Metamucil, as well as doing an over-the-counter yerba mate blend. And I can't remember the exact concentration amount difference, but it is multiple times more than what's over the counter as far as the yerba mate. I mean, multiple. I did this for 3 months because I was determined to prove that, yeah, I can make this work for pennies on a dollar. I have people that say they can't afford this, right? I did not see the same difference in the lab results. And I did this at the same time that I had actual customers using the products who showed me their labs on their own accord. And so, not that that was a full randomized controlled study, but it was enough for me to see that they weren't having the same benefits. They weren't feeling the same way, and neither was I seeing the same results in their success. But I understand, one, to make sure that what you're looking at is doing what it's doing, and yeah, it's doing what it's doing.
And then have we had any like 2, 3, 5, 10 years out of using this? I don't know how far out the studies have been. It seems like the energy, you're pretty wired. It's obviously has the caffeine and theobromine, and I know it does have
More of
a
the
lower
ketones. It's
caffeine.
really nothing to do with that. Yeah,
Yeah, it has a
there's
lower
not
caffeine.
causing that. Caffeine, you get like spikes, Andrew. This is like you're burning fat when you're not eating. It's a totally different energy source. It's the way you're designed to do it, just nobody's doing it because we're all eating all the time.
Yeah, and have you found that people are on the system for 3 months and then off, and they're able to manage it on their own, or do they do kind of lifetimers?
Yeah, you get both. I mean, we have people that stop and then they realize, wow, that's working a lot better than I thought, and they come back. I see that all the time. I mean, I've had people completely get rid of depression. They quit taking it. They call me up and they're like, I'm getting depressed again. I'm like, were you still taking it? They're like, no. I said, well, was your depression happening? No. And I'm like, they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So,
I mean, if you look up reversing diabetes or insulin resistance programs, even on the internet for many of medical health providers, you'll see they do 6 to 12 month programs because it takes, I mean, 90 days is being nice. We're going to see some results, but it's going to take probably 6 months to really reverse actual insulin resistance for somebody with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes. We see some great numbers now. But I mean, if we're going to give an average, it's going to take a little longer to fully reverse. So yeah, the reality is most of us are doing it 6 to 12 months. We have somebody who's been doing it for 30 years, been with the company. Well, been doing it for 30 years. I met her this weekend. So we see those types of things.
That's
you know,
great.
doctor, this is something real quick too. I'll add. You can go to Chat GPT. You can type in how old the person is, how many metabolic diseases they have, if they've had strokes, all these things, and put in this protocol and ask for a 6 month, a 9 month, a 12 month, a 18 month like it'll blow your mind what it shows you. So now you can give some real guidelines to people if you're looking for that long-term benefit.
Now,
Yeah, I want to add something also to the. I want to add something also to your question. When I get this question about if people take it and they stop, what happens? You see, I always like to help people understand these diseases that we face today, modern day society. Doc, your great great grandfather never saw that. They never had diabetes or PCOS or what have you. Why? Because their foods were not the foods we ate. They ate 100% plant-based, 100% animal-based. They ate 80 to 90 grams of fiber. They were eating very naturally. So these diseases are new kids on the block. If you dropped your great grandfather here today and he heard about diabetes, he'll be shocked. The point I'm trying to get to at this is that if you use this protocol and you reverse whether it's your diabetes, your blood pressure, your what have you, um, it is possible to stay off it and remain disease free on one condition. You have to, for the rest of your life, eat the phytonutrients that your great great grandparents were eating every day that kept them healthy. It is impossible to do. It's hard to do, not impossible to do in this day and age. So that's what I tell people. The beauty about this is You could just introduce it into your life and you could eat the way we're eating in modern day society and still avoid all those other things. But if you choose to take it and it helps you with reversal of what it does and you want to put it to the side, you really have to commit to specific foods and lifestyle changes for the rest of your life. And if you do that, those things will not come back again. You deviate, they will, because food is medicine in the same way food is poison.
That's fantastic. I do agree with you. It's sustainable. And the benefits are only experienced if it's a sustainable program, and those choices are every day after, even during the program, in my experience, I would say. And so you just train them how to do that, and make better choices, whole foods, etc. Two side questions that I'm sorry, didn't mean to dominate this conversation here, but I know there's a 90-day money back guarantee, and I'm like, guarantee of what? One question, and part two is, what is the most common, like, say, top three adverse effects, gastrointestinal, sort of loose runny stools or cramping, or what in your experience have you found to be adverse, let's say unwanted, undesirable effects along the way?
Dr. Tiffany, you've been doing this for what, 2 years, 3 years? What, I mean, I
First
see
question.
bloating. Go ahead, right? Like not, go
Well,
ahead.
the first question with that 90-day money back guarantee, at what point they were actually collecting people's A1Cs and said, okay, we want to see that your A1C has improved. Now it's just a happiness guarantee. They are that much sure of this product that it's literally just a happiness guarantee. So I prep my members to look for anything that's improving, because the reality is, just like we said, reversing insulin resistance isn't going to happen overnight depending on where you're starting. But it is a happiness guarantee. And as long as you follow the fasting app at least 50% of the time once you purchase, that's it. No strings attached.
As for what you're asking about, Andrew, I've seen people, if they're severe, if they've had a lot of depression, anxiety, autoimmune diseases for years, they may get constipated. I've had some people get diarrhea over a short period of time. And that is because the gut has got to reestablish and get rid of the bad bacteria. And it's just like it's like somebody ate the wrong food, they're going to get rid of the food, right? That's what the body's doing. So if they get that, I just have them cut back and use half of a packet. You keep feeding the good bacteria, okay, and they'll grow and take back over, and they'll force the bad ones out. But that's it. And if they add some proper good salt, like you and I spoke about earlier, that'll help with constipation. Usually, constipation is the thing if anything happens. You're
Yeah,
so
and
right.
it's transient, it doesn't last for long. Once the colon gets acclimatized to that load of fiber and what have you, the constipation goes away.
Absolutely.
Can I say the biggest adverse reaction is going to be related to people who don't fast? So you can go through the whole keto flu, the fasting, trying to get your body going to be metabolically flexible. For people who have never done that, you have things related to that. You can have headaches because of that. And so that's when the salt stuff kicks in. So it's not necessarily adverse reactions to the products themselves. It's how your body's adjusting to this new lifestyle.
Yep.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. Well, I think some of the questions you asked probably benefited a lot of the other people, so do not feel bad about the questions you asked. I'm sure they benefited a lot of other people. So,
Yeah, great
um,
questions.
Thank you so
yeah,
much for your time. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. So,
Um,
does somebody have a hand raised that went up? We'll take one more question or so,
Esther,
one,
I think
two
I
more
saw.
questions, and then we have to wrap up. Any questions? I saw a hand up.
yeah,
Esther,
that
I
was
think
Dr.
rose.
Esther. Yeah.
Okay, maybe she had a hand up by mistake, maybe. Okay,
So
well, Dr.
Maybe, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, maybe what I'll add to the doctor who was asking about, people not being able to eat the things they love. And what I wanted to say is that as you improve your gut microbiome, and this I found out in retrospect when I was wondering what happened to me. I've been on this product since January 29th. I was one to I loved ice cream. I would eat ice cream 2 to 3 times a week. And that was because I was trying to control myself not to eat it every day. A cookie here and there, I just have a sweet tooth. But this last summer, I realized I probably ate ice cream 4 times throughout the whole summer. And that's because I was taking the kids out. And talking to my husband, who's also been on the product, he also mentioned that he just has no desire for some of those things that he thought he needed. We both love wine, and I can tell you probably all year we've not had more than 10 bottles of wine in total, which is unheard of because, sometimes one evening we'd sit and have a whole bottle of wine, the two of us. And what I found out is that your gut microbiome actually starts right from your mouth. And as you improve your gut microbiome, it actually alters your taste buds because of the metabolites it produces, and your taste receptors change. Now, those things that are technically unhealthy actually just like I don't want to taste them. It's almost
Yeah.
like they disgust me now.
Yeah.
And now things that we usually eat simply because we've been told they're healthy, like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and all those things, you eat them not because they're, great tasting, but because you need to do them. I actually find that that's what I love. I want to eat vegetables. I want to eat healthy stuff. I want to eat whole food, which is, and then those things that I used to snack on, now I have no desire. Just for example, today someone mistakenly delivered Tiff Street cookies in our house. They were warm and no desire at all. Yet, if this had happened 8 months ago, by the time they discovered their mistake, I'd have been through that whole pack. So
Yeah.
yeah, something definitely changes, and now you find it's not a matter of trying to do this by mental fortitude. Your body just does
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Thank you, Doc.
Yeah. Let's take the last question and by the way, that's Doc, sorry, I did not catch the doctor's name who asked the questions. The answer from Esther Garrett. Esther Garrett is a physician herself. She's a doctor herself. So,
Only
uh,
practice.
yeah, and practicing. Let's take the last question from
Renal.
Renal Paul, and then we're going to have Dr. Tiffany close us. Renal, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So I think the first one is a question, and then the second one would be a reaction to everything that everyone has said, the product and stuff. I understand that the product has caffeine, right? That
Yes.
keeps you going, boosts you in the day and everything. But I'd like to find out how much caffeine does the product have, and isn't there a long-term effect on the whoever is consuming that product, like lack of sleep and the other things that we all know about? Maybe if you answer that, then I could say the next thing that I would like to say.
I drink it till I'm drinking right now. I have zero issues with it.
That's
Well,
why I
the
said long term. I said long
yeah,
term.
the first part of that is how much caffeine, about as much as in
Yes,
a
ma'am.
premium cup of coffee. That's the first part of that. So that ranges because we're dealing with the caffeine from an herb from a plant. So it's like
Right.
70 to 120 milligrams of caffeine. That's point one, number one. But we actually have a decaffeinated product that's much less than that. It's about as much as what's in dark chocolate. So we have the ability to be able to have something with less caffeine for those who are sensitive.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. And then the second thing I'd like to say is a personal experience with the product. So I've been on the product for about 3 weeks. I work out 6 days a week, and I feel a lot more hungry than I did. In the first few days, I had more bowel movement, but after that, it stopped, and then I actually gained about 7 pounds. So I don't know if there's something wrong with me or the one taking it, because I follow the instructions on the box
Oye,
as stipulated. So I just wanted to find out.
Yeah, we have people that actually gain weight using the product. If you're insulin resistant, Renaud, your body will start to transition. Now, 3 weeks is pretty early. I started to, though. I started to gain muscle back pretty quick. I was probably 2.5 weeks-ish when I started, but I lost tons of body fat. If you're hungry, your body's transitioning into fat burning. I would increase my salt intake. If you feel hungry, take some more salt. You're craving minerals because you're working out, and watch what happens when you do. I see it all the time with people. Usually you're just minerally deprived. You got to add some minerals back in. Another good thing too is Signal, our company makes. It's got beetroot in it, all your minerals. Beetroot's phenomenal for nitric oxide, opening up the blood vessels, and the L-citrulline's phenomenal for your cardiovascular system. Or you can use some Himalayan salt, Celtic salt, Baja salt.
And I want to add something to that weight issue. Reynold, if you're working out the way you're working out 6 times a week, you must be doing strength training and what have you. If you're insulin, so there's a possibility that the weight gain that is coming here is appropriate weight gain. What do I mean by that? When you're insulin resistant, like Dr. Kenny says he was skinny Kenny, when you're insulin resistant, it's hard for you to gain weight. You have sarcopenia. It prevents your muscles from responding to the stimulus of hypertrophy. Okay. Now, once you start, you've been on it for about 3 weeks. Once you start reversing insulin resistance, when people start on the product, it takes them anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to reverse insulin resistance. Is that early? Once you start reversing insulin resistance and you start gaining muscle sensitivity to stimulus, you could be gaining now the muscle weight that you were not able to gain before. So it's hard to tease out, but there's a possibility that some of the weight that you're seeing there, it's not because the contents of the product have caused you to gain weight, but it's possible that decreasing the reversing the insulin resistance, your muscles are now being sensitized in a way that they were not before, and it's causing you to put on muscle weight.
I tell people to throw their scale away because your clothes are going to start fitting different, guys. Like, look at your measurements of your body. How are your clothes fitting? How are they falling? That's signs of inflammation reduction. That's signs of fat burning, and you're putting on muscle. Muscle's way denser, takes up way less space. We have a farmer who lost 12 inches off his waist and put 2 pounds on in 2 months. So you're losing where you want, but yet you're gaining weight. Who cares? If I take off my shirt and I look like Brad Pitt and I weigh 225 pounds or 185 pounds and I'm shredded, it doesn't matter what I weigh. I always like to use that example. We're so stuck on how much I weigh. It's not about what we weigh, guys. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know ladies especially don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. Right? Dr. He's like, I will smack you for that, but it's true. My wife looked amazing. I'm like, who cares? Like, you look phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like, look at your clothing. She's like, oh, I guess you're right. But we're just so stuck in seeing what we weigh. Now, if you were a professional athlete, you'd be excited. Oh, great. I put on 9 pounds of muscle. But we people that aren't, we're like all worried about what we weigh. So I hope that helps, Renaud.
Yeah. Well, we'll make that the last
Thank you
question.
very much.
Okay, thank you too, Reynold. We'll make that the last question, and we're gonna let Dr. Tiffany close us.
Okay. Perspective is important. I think for years we have been so focused on medications being the answer. I'm going to go to the doctor. They're going to give me a prescription for this, and my problem is going to be cured. It's going to be fixed. Unfortunately, after decades, I practiced for decades, that didn't happen. I would see people come and they would just want the medications. They weren't ready to make any changes. I'd have to walk them through stroke number 1, number 2, number 3, or heart attack number 1, number 2, number 3, before they said, okay, what do I need to do? The great thing about this product right here that has a 90-day money-back guarantee is we don't have to walk through all that. We don't have to risk you dying on the table, because not everybody's going to come back like Keith. Not everybody's going to get no shocks and come back. I've had to watch too many people not come back, knowing I have something to be able to reverse these conditions that are taking people out is enough to be on this live late at night. Like I have nothing else to do because I love this. So if this is something that you can actually use for yourself, you don't want to be on that table leaving your family member to have to figure out what to do with what you left them with, or you have family members that you don't want to see them leave early, why not give this a try? It's a 90-day money back guarantee. Prove me wrong after 90 days. That's all I got. Because you're not going to.
Thank you, Dr. Tiffany.
Thank you, Dr. Tiffany. Thank you. Well, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for spending your evening with us. We hope you found this to be informative and educational. And if so, you were invited here and by somebody and you would like to try the product and you're new to us today, get whoever invited you and they will help you do that. Last thing, we're always also looking for people to join our team. So if you've heard this and you're interested in how can I become involved in this more and you would like to join our team, please also get with whoever invited you. We want to have as many messengers helping people take back their health. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dr. Tiffany.
All right.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.